You don't need to dramatically overhaul your life or do a complete 180 in order to start being healthier. It's actually quite the opposite. You are much more likely to make lasting changes when you use thoughtful strategies and really intentional moves toward habit change. In today's episode, we're going to explore the idea of tiny habits, also known as habit stacking, to move you from your big health aspirations to habits that you can actually build and goals that you can actually achieve. Here we go. Hey there. Welcome to Be Well with Steph, the podcast, the show for women who know that personal wellness can be an actively pursued goal and who are ready to tackle building healthier daily habits with a little bit of good humor, a little bit of grace, and a lot of coffee. I'm Steph Genko, your holistic nutrition coach and your host, and I'm here to help empower you to create and maintain a healthy lifestyle you love, a lifestyle that gives you the strength, energy, and confidence to go after your wildest dreams. The first time that I heard of and learned about tiny habits myself was listening to a podcast. And the host was interviewing a man named BJ Fogg, who had written a book and was teaching people and coaching people on this habit change method. And the book was called Tiny Habits, Small Changes That Change Everything. And I was captivated listening to him talk about this idea of tiny habits that I'm going to share with you today. It has 100% impacted the way that I help clients adapt their lives by adding more healthy habits into their daily routines. I will link to BJ Fogg and his Tiny Habits website in the show notes for you to take a look at. It's also really similar if you have heard of S.J. Scott and habit stacking. He has several books on this topic. Tiny habits and habit stacking are really similar. I love using tiny habits when I'm working with my clients because it makes reaching their health goals feel so much more attainable and manageable, right? It's really hard to bite something off in huge chunks or to feel, again, like you need to overhaul your life in some sort of way. It's so much easier to look at making changes as just a series of tiny little habits. Let's start with accepting that idea, the idea that life is made up of our own simple daily routines and our rituals and our habits, right? My whole day is just a series of little habits that I've strung together into my lifestyle. So by changing some of those little tiny habits, we eventually change everything. If we look at our day as a strung together series of routines, rituals, and habits, that means at any point that we can start to change the little pieces that are going to add up to change the big picture. I want to, real quick, talk about what habits are compared to what hopes are and what behaviors are. I think it's really important that we understand how distinct these three different things are and then how they work together. So I want to start with hopes. We all wake up with hopes and dreams every single morning. I might wake up and hope that that day I'm going to be productive. I wake up and hope that I'm going to feel healthy. I might hope that down the road in my life, I'm going to be energetic or that I'm going to attain some type of goal. But life is not built on hopes and aspirations. It's really built on the daily behaviors, the things that we do every day that lead us closer to fulfilling our dreams or fulfilling our hopes. For example, I might hope that I become more energetic. But I can't just wake up in the morning and say, today I have more energy. It doesn't work like that, right? Instead, I need to have behaviors in place in my life that lead me to be a more energetic person. So an example of behavior might be I get 8 hours of sleep at night, or I nourish my body every day, or I exercise regularly. Exercise, sleep, eating patterns, those are all behaviors. They're concrete things. We don't just hope for them. We can actually have them and do them daily. Habits are even smaller than behaviors. A habit I have can help to support the behavior I want to have. So let's work backward again. I hope that I am going to be energetic. In order to have more energy, I should probably have a behavior like sleeping well, sleeping for 8 hours, etc. But the habit that I have to have in place in order to have the behavior of good sleep is I have to go to bed at 10 o'clock every night. That's my habit. And by going to bed at 10 o'clock every night, that supports the behavior of I am a person with good sleep, and therefore it can help lead me to my big hope or aspiration of being more energetic. Tiny habits are even smaller than these types of habits. Tiny habits involve choosing something so small that it almost even feels insignificant. Choosing some sort of habit so small that nothing could get in our way from achieving it or accomplishing it. And the way that this is similar to the idea of habit stacking is that we don't just say we want to have a new habit. We find a place in our life where we already have an existing habit, and we stack on or attach our new tiny habit to the old thing that we already do. I'm going to walk you through a few examples of what tiny habits look like in our day-to-day life, and maybe you'll find something that you can adapt to your life. An example might be that I hope to feel clearer, right? My hope or aspiration might be that I have a clearer head and more focus. I just want to feel like I can think clearly. Well, one behavior that might help to support being able to think clearly and focus well is good hydration. So I can't just wake up in the morning and say, I now have more focus and clarity, right? Instead, I need to have behaviors in place that support focus and clarity. So good hydration might be one of those behaviors. I drink water regularly. That's something that I can actively do. If I currently don't drink water regularly and I don't hydrate well, I might need to purposefully build a habit into my life for helping me drink more water. Okay, so habits get nitty gritty. Maybe the habit is that I have a water bottle by my side and I'm drinking it throughout the day, but can I get more specific and attach the idea of drinking water to something that I already do? Sure, I can. I already eat 3 meals a day. So I could make a tiny habit that says, I drink a glass of water before each one of my meals. 3 meals a day, that means I'm adding in 3 extra glasses of water a day. It should be so small that nothing gets in my way. It doesn't say the amount of water. It doesn't say what kind of water. It doesn't give any sort of parameters on ounces or before and after or whatever. There's no other rules surrounding this. The only task that I have to do is drink a glass of water before I eat my meal. There should be nothing standing in my way of doing that. But if I'm doing that, I'm already adding in 3 extra glasses of water a day that way. And maybe the success of being able to do that is going to encourage me to drink water at other times of the day. And over time, I'll be able to build good hydration as a behavior into my life that supports my hope of having more clarity. Does that make sense? Let's try another one. Maybe you have a hope of really being healthier by eating healthier. You wish that eating healthier was something that you were in control of, and you aren't sure where to start. Maybe you could start by choosing one thing like a piece of fruit that is not typically a part of your daily habits or daily routine, but find a place that you can insert it into a habit or a string of habits that you already have. Maybe you finish work at 3 o'clock every day, and you know that you're going to be heading home to make dinner, get things done around the house, move on with phase 2 of the day, right? So maybe that's already something you do, wind down and pack up your workday. And now attached to that idea is a piece of fruit. So now the old habit was I pack up my work things at the end of the day. The new tiny habit or stacked habit is I now eat a piece of fruit while I pack up my things at the end of the day. This serves a lot of purposes, right? You're already packing up, so it's already something ingrained in your routine that you can glom onto. Eating that piece of fruit is going to support your overall goal of eating healthier. It's also going to give you that added bonus of a little bit of an energy boost going into the next part of your day. And maybe that will encourage you then to make the next healthful or nutritious choice because you've already made one. A lot of times with habit stacking, we see that is that the idea of eating a piece of fruit is super small, right? We could handle that. The only thing that could stand in our way is not having fruit packed or purchased from the store. But if we have fruit, there shouldn't be another roadblock other than taking it out and eating it. But a lot of times we find with habit stacking that doing that gives us that feeling, little tiny feeling of success. And then we're able to carry that through and say, what else could I do that's going to make me feel good? Well, I ate this piece of fruit. Maybe that's going to encourage me to try another healthful choice when I'm preparing dinner. Maybe that piece of fruit gives me a tiny bit more energy and I can go for a short walk when I get home. Habit stacking can be so powerful because it breaks up the routine that we're already doing. It like throws a tiny wrench into our regular habits in a good way. I don't know another expression for that other than throw a wrench in it, but it puts something in there to stop the old pattern and to help us start a new one, even though it's something so small. Okay, another example. Maybe you sit all day for work. I know I find myself sitting so much more and spending so much more time on the computer or something than I ever have before. And I want to move my body more regularly. I think that will help me be healthier. I think that will help me feel better in my body, maybe have a little more inspired energy, right? Those are the things I'm hoping for. My hope of feeling physically better is supported by a behavior like regular movement. We'd all love to be able to say, right, I get purposeful, regular movement. That's one of my behaviors. Well, if you aren't currently moving your body purposefully and regularly, that's a new habit that needs to be built. So we start so tiny, so tiny. So tiny, it feels like it doesn't work at all. But here's the thing. If you're not currently moving your body in a purposeful way, doesn't it sound terrifying to suddenly say, I exercise for an hour a day, or I exercise for 30 minutes a day? It's really hard to go from 0 to full speed, right? We can accept the idea that we don't have to 180 our life in order for it to start making a difference. So maybe in this scenario, the tiny habit that I add is I'm looking at my work day. I send a lot of emails or a lot of messages. Every time I hit send on an email or a DM, I am going to stand up and reach up for the sky and touch my toes 10 times. There's nothing getting in our way from doing that, right? We can accomplish that. When I hit send on my email, something I'm already doing, I stand up and reach for the sky and touch my toes. It might feel insignificant, but maybe after the third time you do that, you also take a little lap around the room. You also get up and refill your water bottle. Maybe after you start doing that, you feel like one of those breaks where you stand up and stretch, you decide you're going to throw in some push-ups. It can be really powerful just to start with something. A really important part of habit stacking that I don't want to forget to talk about is celebrating the fact that you did the habit. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients in coaching groups and stuff, we have threads either in Facebook groups or text messages where we help each other celebrate our tiny habits. So it might feel so silly for me that, oh, I drank a glass of water before lunch. But when I reach out to my group and say, tiny habit for the day, check, I drank a glass of water before lunch, people are genuinely happy for each other. They're able to say like, oh my gosh, how cool for you. Keep going, refill it. I also did my habit. And we do this like check-in process with one another. It feels silly to celebrate drinking water or touching your toes, I know, but we're much more likely to continue doing something that we feel successful at, right? We're not going to keep doing something for very long if we feel defeated or it feels like a waste of our time or we're not getting anywhere from it. So a really important part of building new habits is celebrating when you do the habit every single time. I'm going to give you one more example here. Adding vegetables. The most common thing I hear is, well, I should probably eat more vegetables. Or when I look at food logs with clients, adding more vegetables always comes up as a topic. But how? How do we do that, right? We know that our hope is to have a healthier diet. A behavior we would have to have in place to have a healthy diet is eat more servings of vegetables. How do we start doing that? Dinner is usually the easiest, but you could pick any time of day. I'm already preparing dinner. I set my intention for my tiny habit of I am going to include one more vegetable when I cook dinner. It doesn't matter what the meal is, what kind of vegetable it is. There's no other parameters. It can be any bag of frozen vegetables you have in your freezer. But my tiny habit is when I cook dinner, I add one more vegetable. All these things feel really small, but if I start to implement a series of tiny habits, when I look back, now I'm suddenly the person who drinks water before all their meals, eats a piece of fruit in the afternoon, stretches and walks around during the day, eats extra vegetables at dinner every day. These series of habits really truthfully add up. Using tiny habits is definitely how I personally have gotten myself to be more consistent with my workouts. I used to really put off going to the gym. I love to go, I love to be there, but there's sometimes just that moment of getting out the door where you suddenly start to tell yourself a million other things that you could do instead. And tiny habits was the way that I overcame this. So the hope that I had for myself was that I would be in better physical shape. And I knew that the behavior I needed was to exercise consistently. Again, moving purposefully and moving consistently. But I was having a hard time starting that habit. So what I did was took a look at the week, at the beginning of the week, took a look at where I could fit maybe 4 purposeful workouts into my week and wrote them into my planner. And then I told myself that when that time came, I needed to be dressed to exercise. I needed workout clothes of some kind on, and that I needed to enter the gym. That's what I told myself. I didn't tell myself I had a really rigid workout plan I needed to follow. I didn't tell myself that I needed to lift on a certain routine or spend a certain amount of time there. The only habit that I needed to add was entering the gym. And from there, whatever happened was going to be better for my physical health than if I had not entered the gym, right? Even if it meant that day I was walking and reading on the treadmill for 20 minutes, or if it meant I had a lot of energy and I wanted to fit in a HIIT workout, or did it mean I was feeling strong and not feeling like I had a lot of endurance, but that I had a little bit of strength and I could lift that day? I could let my body tell myself what it needed. And usually I stayed at the gym for longer than, the 10 or 15 minutes. I stayed for a whole workout once I was there. But it was much easier for me to make one habit at a time. And that one habit was on the days that I have scheduled it, I go into the gym. And from there, everything else was allowed to unfold for me. Do you see how powerful tiny habits can be? I hope this inspires you to stop just hoping for the changes that you want and to stop finding roadblocks that get in the way of developing all these big new behaviors and new lifestyles, and instead start doing one tiny thing that is going to move you a little bit closer, and then celebrate that thing and trust the fact that you are headed in the right direction. You are headed toward your hopes and dreams. It's just going to take one tiny step at a time. Now, I'm going to assign you a little bit of homework. I want for you to think of one area of your life that you are working on improving and find a way to attach a new tiny habit to something you already do that's going to move you closer to your goals. And then I want you to go over to Instagram, find me at Be Well with Steph, and comment on whatever my most recent post is after you're listening to this and tell me what tiny habit you're working on. That way I'll be able to cheer you on and help you celebrate and watch you get closer to creating that healthy lifestyle that you love. Thank you so much for listening to Be Well with Steph, the podcast. When there are a million things that you could be doing, I appreciate your choosing to hang out here. And I am proud of you for continuing to work on your own wellness journey. I invite you to head over to BeWellWithSteph.com for the details from this episode, my blog, upcoming events, and lots of other resources. If you enjoyed today's show, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Be Well with Steph everywhere you like to hang out on social media, so come on over and say hi. Until next time, my friends, be well.